I'm going to start with a story I most definitely never shared on LinkedIn. In 2012, I started a preppy fashion blog on Tumblr. Think East Coast summer mood boards, J. Crew chino shorts, very loudly printed Lily Pulitzer dresses. It was called Pearls Prosecco Prep. I was 14 years old. So of course, I had no strategy, no plan, just a Canon camera I borrowed from my mom and a desire to find an outlet for my creativity outside the walls of my small town high school. A few summers spent working on that blog, and I found myself with 50,000 followers, got my first paycheck from 5-cent per click affiliate links. It was a huge deal for me. Landed my first partnership with Vineyard Vines, and eventually found myself to be part of a network of other teen content creators scattered across the country. It was new, it was very exciting, and I wanted to meet them. So I planned a meetup day in New York City where a few awkward teens from all over met up in Central Park to document our day cosplaying as the cast of Gossip Girl. For teen Bianca, that was a very exciting day. It was that day when I first met my now longtime best friend Mitch, who is here tonight. Woo! It was also the first time I truly realized the value of showing up online. It wasn't about the followers or the prospect of making money. It was the network, the real life relationships. It was the access to experiences and opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise. And maybe, most importantly, it was a moment of self-discovery. Through working on that blog, I learned a few things about myself. It made me realize I loved content production, made me realize working with brands and on the affiliate side that I loved the business side of social. And planning that Central Park meetup, albeit only 4 Tumblr teens strong, made me realize I had a knack for bringing people together, both online and in real life. That would be my first taste of what my career would eventually become, and it all started with one post. Fast forward to now, I'm the head of consumer engagement at Personal Day, a skincare brand I helped build and launch from the ground up alongside actress Lily Reinhart. I've led social, influencer, and paid media campaigns for some of the biggest brands in beauty and tech. And I've helped artists, public figures, and founders overcome their fear of being seen online and help them find a voice that actually feels like them. But here's the through line. Every single one of those opportunities didn't come from traditional applications. It came from showing up on social and learning how to leverage it as a tool for personal branding. I do not have 100,000 followers. I don't make 6 figures from TikTok. I'm not a content creator by trade. And yet, showing up on social and learning how to leverage that as a tool, it has become the most powerful and transformative tool for my career and my personal brand. So this talk is not about how to become an influencer or how to monetize your following. It's about how to overcome the invisible psychological blockers that keep so many of us from being seen online, and how in doing so, you can transform not just your career and your community, but your sense of self. So let's first start with the part no one wants to talk about. The deep, almost physical discomfort so many of us feel when showing up online. It's not just self-consciousness, it's exposure, and exposure psychologically is vulnerability. There's actually a name for that kind of anxiety we feel maybe before or after we hit post, and psychologists refer to it as the spotlight effect. It's a cognitive bias that prompts us to drastically overestimate how much people are actually paying attention. You post one outfit, one thought, one opinion, and your brain reacts like you just did a TED Talk naked. I'm right. In reality, everyone's way too focused on their goals, their posts, their grid to analyze every little move you make on yours. And yet, the fear still feels real. And that's because social media collapses context. It blurs the once clear lines between different parts of our identity, the compartments we once relied upon to feel safe. Personal versus professional, public versus private, curated versus chaotic. You're no longer just a friend to your friends or a professional to your colleagues. Suddenly, you're everything, everywhere, all at once. And that collapse can make posting feel risky. not necessarily because the stakes are high, but because you might not be sure which version of you people might be seeing or expecting. And with that uncertainty becomes one of the most common fears I hear, which is the fear of being misunderstood. What if I post and no one gets me? What if I share the real me and it doesn't land? What if I told you that avoiding the collapse doesn't actually protect you from being misunderstood? It actually makes it more likely. Because the more you compartmentalize yourself and the more you put the things that make you uniquely you tied up and tucked away into little boxes, the more fragmented your presence becomes and the more fragmented your personal brand becomes, and the more difficult it becomes for anyone on the outside to actually understand the full picture of you. Which brings me to my first principle of 3 I'll share today that will hopefully change the way you think about showing up online. And principle 1 is embrace the collapse. The moment you stop self-editing and start showing up as your fully integrated self, a few powerful things start to happen. 1, the things that make you, you, finally get to take lead. They become the foundation and not just the footnotes. You allow yourself to show up authentically more consistently because you avoid that burnout that might come from trying to niche yourself down to fit an algorithm or put yourself in a box that you don't really fit in. That's especially true for anyone who defines themselves or identifies as a creative or multi-hyphenate. Feeling like you have to fit in one thing can feel especially exhausting. What's also exhausting is identity fatigue. But it's something that psychologists refer to as that psychological strain that you get from constantly toggling between different personas depending on what room you're in. I had my own moment with that strain and the collapse when I was working at TikTok corporate and I decided to start posting content on TikTok. It was just me sitting at my desk talking to the camera, ranting about what I was interested in personal branding and marketing, the creator economy. I loved it. It gave me a sense of fulfillment I actually didn't even know I was missing. The internet loved it. It gained traction. It introduced me to founders, entrepreneurs, creatives. But TikTok corporate, they didn't love it. Whoopsies. And eventually, I was confronted with a decision to either keep nurturing this fully integrated self that I was building and posting on TikTok and see where it led me, or keep working at TikTok. I decided to keep posting, and with that, I attracted deeper collaborations, more aligned collaborators, deeper relationships, better opportunities. And eventually, I left TikTok to lead the social team at Tarte Cosmetics, which was a role that got me one step closer to a career and a path that I had always dreamed of, but never even thought was possible. Simply the act of showing up uncovered areas of misalignment in my career and in my life that I didn't know were there. And that's really powerful, because that collapse in that moment was also the moment that my personal brand stopped being something I had to carefully curate and build, and it started being something I simply embodied. Which brings me to principle number 2. Treat posting as self-discovery. We often think of showing up on social and personal branding as an output, a means to shape perception. But what if I told you it's an input? What if it's the fastest way to figure out who you are? The act of posting consistently, even casually, forces you to ask, what do I care enough about to say out loud? What do I keep returning to? What do I want to be known for? For me, posting became my mirror. It helped me clarify my voice and my path. And it made me realize you don't become the person before you post and the person emerges. Which brings me to principle 3. You are your greatest asset. No one else has your path, your perspective, your history. You are the only you, and that is what will set you apart. We spend so much time looking outward for templates, trends, strategies, that we forget that the most important thing we can do in showing up online and building a brand is putting ourselves at the center of the conversation. I get this all the time when friends will message me and be like, hey, can you help me with my personal brand or my presence? And I'll look and I'll see they're doing all the right things. They're showing up daily, but the thing that's most always missing is them, their face, their story, their perspective, their personality. And I get it, that's vulnerable. But it's so, so important and so critical, because in 10 years, people won't remember your strategy, your outfits, your 5 recipes under 50 calories that you shared. Definitely not. But they will remember you. Social media didn't just change my career, it changed my relationship with myself. When I stopped compartmentalizing, when I started honoring the value of all sides of me, and when I let go of the idea of being ready and started showing up anyway, that's when I uncovered a version of myself that I was confident in, that I trusted, and that I wanted to grow into. Because ultimately, you don't get the confidence before you post. You post, and the confidence comes after. So if you're ever hesitating or overthinking what to post, what to say, or whether it even matters, try thinking back to a version of you who showed up before you had it all figured out. For me, it was 14-year-old Bianca with a Canon camera, a Tumblr account, and an instinct to connect. I definitely had no plan, but I showed up anyway. And I've been showing up little by little every day ever since. Because on the other side of allowing yourself to be seen is not just a personal brand and a following. It's a version of you that is whole, confident, and fully ready to step into whatever it is you want to do next. Thank you. Thank you.